Tanzania's Trade Minister and Chair of the African Continental Free Trade Area's Ministers responsible for Trade Council, Ashatu Kijaji, says logistics remains a considerable barrier to improving trade on the continent. She spoke to Ntokozo Khumalo, our business reporter, on the sidelines of the 13th AfCFTA ministers meeting in Durban, adding that trade ministers want to see finance ministers across the continent for a more holistic approach.
Well, ministers from across the continent were all in Durban to really discuss ways to push the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement forward, with some countries now pushing for implementation, and that's including South Africa and Eswatini. And to give us a little bit more insights on what came out of the meetings is Tanzania's Trade Minister, Ashatu Kijaji. Thank you so much for talking to us. And you're also the chair of the ministers responsible for trade. Talk us through just highlights of what's come out of this year's meetings, looking forward when it comes to the agreement.
Okay, thank you so much. First of all, I should start by thanking the Republic of South Africa for welcoming us here in Durban, South Africa. It's really a nice place for us to meet and discuss all things that are regarding trade, particularly in our continent, Africa. We are here for the meeting of almost 2 days. We started today and then tomorrow. And the expectations that we have as we signed the agreement of this Africa Continental Free Trade Area is just to see that we increase the level of trade between us within Africa. As you know, we are less than 10% in trading between us, so we are just pushing at least to reach at 20% by 2030. At least African countries should trade by at least 20% among themselves. So this is the meeting, and we are just discussing several issues. And one of the major achievement in this specific meeting is finalizing the protocol on women and youth in trade under AfCFTA. Well, I remember we started it last year, and finally we are done with this specific protocol, and we are just going in front of our heads of state, telling them we are done on this issue, seeing women trading within Africa, removing the trade barriers that have been facing by women in Africa while they are doing their trade, but also increasing the level of youth is engaging in trade within Africa. So this is one of the great achievements within this specific meeting that we are having here in Durban. But the second thing, we are just discussing again the protocol on digital trade. And as you know, the world is running so fast. It's a global village. And we just passed the last 3 years, we have seen the impact of COVID-19, that each country was locked in. So we're just running as Africa Continental Free Trade Area to say that we are just increasing also the percentage of our people who are doing business using the digital system. So this is another big achievement that we are seeing we are going to achieve in this specific meeting, because we are seeing almost 98% is being completed within the digital trade protocol, yes.
And Minister, just looking at physical trade, of actually moving goods and people across the country, we saw right here in South Africa that logistics crisis that we faced. Are ministers talking around that transport corridor, opening up ease of movement for just average people on the continent?
Yeah, one of the major challenges that has been hampering trade between us in Africa is logistics. Trading even within the specific country or between our two countries. So these are the things that we have just also started discussing on how we can make the logistics easy, how we can simplify the way of doing business, how we can transport our goods from one country to the other or even within the country. That's why last year we came with a simplified trade regime that at least we can have, we can identify a list of products, a list of goods that are to be traded within countries or between countries without following those a lot of hurdles, the tariff and non-tariff barriers. So we are just finalizing also having that list of goods that can be traded under simplified trade regime. But also, as I said, in transport, in Africa, we have a huge problem in transport. If I can give an example, in one of the countries that is trading under CFTA and Guided Trade Initiative, Kenya, they just started. They started the business with Ghana last year, and the first cargo was in February 2023, and it reached in Ghana in October. Now you can imagine those hurdles. So as Ministers of Trade, we are just discussing on how we can simplify the issue of logistics within Africa, because without logistics it's not easy for us to increase that percentage of trading between us.
Santisani, Minister, for talking to us. And of course, that's Tanzania Minister of Trade, Ashatu Kijaji. For Newzroom Afrika, I'm Ntokozo Khumalo in Durban.